Terry Gilliam is one of those people that everybody wants to please because he has such a great sense of humor and he cares so much about his work that it makes everyone else care. I mean, Terry really is a true artist in every way. He lives and breathes his work and enjoys the hell out of it.
I bid you welcome to your new home. Let us ride to Camelot.
We're knights of the round table, we dance whenever we're able. We do routines, we call scenes, with footwork impeccable. We dine well here in Camelot, we eat ham and jam and spam a lot. We're knights of the round table, our shows are more mid-table. So many times we're given rhymes that are quite unsingable. We're rock so mad in Camelot, we sing from the diaphragm.
I was always an Anglophile when it came to comedy. I mean, I watched the old Ealing comedies when I was living here in the States. There seemed to be a kind of humor that I didn't find in America. Maybe it was the foreignness of it. Maybe it was the sense of irony that the English have, which the Americans really fail at. English comedy seems to me based on the English making fun of themselves. The Americans don't make fun of themselves so easily. They make fun of other people very easily. And it's a thing that I've always liked. I liked self-deprecation, which then leads to self-loathing. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. First sort of, I think, about 11, 12 years were spent running around on dirt roads, playing in swamps, swimming in rivers, having a fairly Tom Sawyer-esque childhood, which was great. I mean, I've always loved the country, and it stays with me. And I think a lot of what I do comes from this problem of being a country boy living in the cities. I don't know where I got the brain that's sort of floating around inside this skull. I think I'm just one of nature's mutants. The family, strangely enough, actually, here's the truth. I just found out a couple of years ago, my mother had never told me this, but my grandfather had actually been the manager of a cinema in, I think it was Bismarck, North Dakota. This was a thing I never knew until a couple of years ago. So somewhere, films were there in the family line. I've got a cousin who's an artist, a painter, but other than that, I'm the black sheep.
Got it! And Bridget!
Writer-director Terry Gilliam is definitely a filmmaking rebel. He insists on following his own instincts, as his films will attest. His movies are not for everyone, nor does he want them to be. No one has ever viewed a Terry Gilliam film for the first time and grasped everything it had to offer, which is why his movies are as stimulating as they are and continue to challenge the viewer scene after scene after scene. Innovative animator, actor, writer, and director Terry Gilliam was born in America, where he briefly worked as a writer-illustrator for Mad magazine, emigrating to England in 1967, where he eventually joined the Monty Python Flying Circus, first as an animator, then as one of its performers from 1970 through 1973. Python feature films followed, and in 1976, he had his first solo directing assignment with Jabberwocky, which he labeled definitely not a Python film.
Terry has a huge sense of time and place and history. And I'm not talking about his own place in history, because there will be a place for that, but a love for the ages. And I think he responds to texture and architecture and permanence and impermanence, and he understands all of those and how these are all opposite notions sometimes. And he also talked about something else. He used to say that he had a real, and he's very vulnerable about it, that he had a real sense of his aging process and a sense of death being very close to him. And he laughs about it, but that he doesn't want it to be that close, and a sense of his own mortality. And he's not speaking himself in any kind of grandiose terms. It's just the sense that it can be gone. you know, and I feel that in his work.
What I think is special about Terry, besides being the genius and the visual artist that he is that the man has no ego. He really doesn't. And he's so aware of what he knows, and he's so aware of what he doesn't know.
Perhaps it was fate that while working in New York as a magazine cartoonist, Gilliam would meet and make friends with actor-comedian John Cleese. That chance encounter would lead to a long relationship, creating some of the funniest and most innovative comedy material ever to be seen on television and the cinema.
Having met John in New York and then turning up in London about 2 or 3 years later, I was still working in magazines at that point, and I was a cartoonist, I was an illustrator, and he was at that point on the David Frost program, on the Frost Report, and he was becoming quite well known in television, and I approached him and asked him, how do I get into television? And he introduced me to a producer who was producing a television show called Do Not Adjust Your Set, which was a kids show, and it was written and performed by Mike Palin, Terry Jones, and Eric Idle. And I got a couple of written sketches on that show, and we met up, and they didn't like me at all because I was a foreigner invading their turf, and especially an American. But we became friends eventually, and I went on to another show called We Have Ways of Making You Laugh. Eric Idle was on that one, and one day they approached me saying, we've got this material, we don't know what to do. And I said, well, why don't I make an animated film of it? I'd never done one, but I knew how these things were done. And I had 2 weeks and 400 pounds. And the only way I could do it was with cutouts. And so I had photographs and I cut them out and moved them around very quickly. And it went out on television. And literally overnight, I was an animator. And John had a standing offer from the BBC to do a program if he wanted it. And so this brought us all together. We took up the offer at the BBC and became Monty Python's Flying Circus. And then my career finished again.
On second thoughts, let's not go to Camelot. It is a silly place.
Right.
After co-writing and appearing as a performer in the first Python film, and now for something completely different, he and fellow Python Terry Jones directed Monty Python and the Holy Grail in 1974. The Python troupe included Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin, and of course, Terry Gilliam. After co-directing this film, Gilliam's comment was, "Filmmaking is slightly less a waste of time than film school."
The first Python film was shot by Ian McNaughton, who'd been directing the television shows, and it was called And Now for Something Completely Different. And it was really a series of the sketches of the first series and some of the second. And Terry Jones and I had always been frustrated film directors. We knew better, of course, than Ian. And we would sit there and try to tell him, well, the camera should be here doing this. And so when the offer came to do another Python film, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Terry and I took the opportunity to offer to anybody in the group named Terry the opportunity to direct the film.
Whoa now!
And the very first day of the very first film that we ever directed, we carried all the gear out of the vans and cars and down a mountainside, across the river, up another mountainside to the famous Bridge of Death scene in the Seven Sisters Peak of Scotland. And we had built this bridge across this chasm, and we turn over on the very first shot and the camera breaks.
Stop! What is your name?
Sir Galahad of Camelot.
What is your quest?
I seek the Grail.
What is your favorite color?
Blue. No, yes.
Stop! What is your name?
It is Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To seek the Holy Grail.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
What do you mean? An African or European swallow?
Huh? I don't know that.
Who do you know so much about swallows?
Well, you have to know these things when you're a king, you know.
It was one of those films where everything that could go wrong did, and so it was a very good learning on the job experience, because just before we were to start shooting, and we had chosen about 4 or 5 castles in Scotland, the National Trust, which is in charge of your historical buildings in England, deemed that Python would not respect the dignity of the fabric of the buildings, and with a couple of weeks ago we were thrown out of all these castles. Places where the most awful tortures had taken place, awful behavior by the real people who had built them, but comedy was not allowed. And so we had to fake it really quickly, and so we built castles as cutouts, 15-foot high painted cutouts we'd stick on hills. And so it was a very fast and furious way of learning how to fake filmmaking.
Look, my liege! Camelot. Camelot. Camelot.
It's only a model.
One of the things with Python, we were doing television, we always had big ideas. We did a lot of parodies of films and film directors, and I think we were all frustrated by the limitations of that little screen. And so when we set out to do Holy Grail, we set out to do an epic. We wanted to have scale. We wanted to have horses. Of course, we didn't get horses, we got coconuts. And in a strange way, I think the success of Holy Grail is due to the fact that we didn't have the money to make a mediocre epic. Because given the time and money, we would have been mediocre. But because we didn't have the time or the money, we had to be inventive. And we had to come up with silly ideas, which in the end proved to be much more interesting. The difficulty of directing Python was that Terry Jones and I, who had been very close during the television shows, felt we had the same view of the film. And what we discovered very soon was that we seemed to have slightly diverging views. And so for the crew, there were 2 voices, 2 directors directing. And we got the assistant director to try to be the common voice. Well, it turned out he had film directing aspirations as well. So he was directing a 3rd film, which Terry and I, didn't want to make. So we ended up working in a way where Terry would work with the actors, the others in the troupe, and I would stay back with the camera, because the guys didn't behave like pieces of paper. I mean, I would sit and draw the storyboard out. I would plan these things, especially on the special effects shots where we needed a mat, because we were throwing animals over a battlement and we didn't have real animals. We would, months later, throw little toy animals from train sets up in the air of somebody's back garden. But the day we were shooting it, it required that they keep their heads below the parapet of the castle, and they're in the foreground. So the only way to do that was dig a hole. And we dug a hole and put the camera in that. And then they were still too tall. Then we had to have them kneeling down. And the guys didn't like kneeling down in armor, and they thought it was a very silly way of acting. And I, at that point, didn't have many social skills because I'd been in my garret for those many years. And I would just walk off in a huff and say, "You wrote the scene. You wanted me to do it, direct it for you. You're not taking my orders. Goodbye." And I'd go off and lay down on the grass and say, "Harumph." And Terry would then take over. So that's why we worked eventually in this way where he would talk to them, who I hated at that point, and I would deal with the camera and put it in the right place and make the thing look good. It was a very special time where we were allowed to get away with murder. And the fact that it translates and other people like it, I think it may be partly to do with the fact that it is so unique and special and not trying to please anybody but us. And so, a lot of people don't get it, and they never will, and we don't care. And the people who do get it love it. And I would always rather go for people being passionate about what we do as opposed to saying, "Oh, that was okay, that wasn't bad." No, I'd rather than say, "That's rubbish, that's a piece of shit." Or, "That's wonderful, it's the best thing I've ever seen." But the middle ground, I don't want to know about.
Reading directly from a bio provided by Gilliam's office, we extract the following entry with regard to his 1977 film, Jabberwocky. Spends a year promoting and defending Jabberwocky, definitely not a Python film. Decides film festivals are a waste of time. Jabberwocky was loosely based on a Lewis Carroll poem and featured fellow Python Michael Palin in the title role.
Jabberwocky, the Carroll poem, has always been a favorite of mine. Lewis Carroll has always been a favorite writer. The madness of his world is the most sane thing I've ever read. And so the idea of taking this poem, this nonsensical poem, and turning it into a film just was a starting point. Jabberwocky was born out of the fact that I didn't get to do all the things I wanted to do in Holy Grail, that I felt limited by the fact that we had to be always funny. I wanted to try to escape from that trap. I wanted to be able to be adventurous and suspenseful and romantic and a lot of other things. And I felt we had failed on certain levels in Grail. And so I set out to do my medieval film.
I've got lots of good ideas, and I think that once in there, I could do...
Now, look, Sonny, shove off. Wait a minute. What have you got here? What's this? You told us you had nothing. Oh,
That's not for eating.
what do you mean? You could last for a week on that.
My sweetheart gave it to me before I left home.
She gave you that?
Yes. Have it back, please.
Gosh, she must really love you.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I've got a sort of sticky feeling inside me just thinking of it. You sure are a lucky guy. Come on, Fred, cut it out. He's not getting in.
So I've got to go.
Give him a break. Just this once. No chance. Now push off, you.
I really don't like this character, except that he gets caught up into a situation where he becomes a hero unwittingly and gets everything you've ever wanted by the terms of the way the media works or the way fairy tales works. These are the things you're supposed to want, and he gets them all, but it's not what he wanted.
My boy, congratulations. We offer you our heartfelt thanks. You have cleared the kingdom of a great menace, and I am very happy to fulfill my promise and to bestow upon you, what's his name?
It's Dennis. Dennis Cooper, your shipments. And that's his fiancée, my daughter.
You, Dennis, one half of my entire kingdom. And the hand in marriage, my daughter, the princess. Come, my boy, to the palace. Come.
Griselda!
I pronounce you man and wife.
After writing and appearing in the 1979 Python film The Life of Brian, Gilliam and Michael Palin wrote Time Bandits, which Gilliam directed. In his bio, Gilliam writes, Time Bandits is released and is a far bigger success than Chariots of Fire and should have won at least 13 Oscars as well as a self-sufficiency badge. The cast of Time Bandits included John Cleese, Sean Connery, Shelley Duvall, Katherine Helmond, Sir Ralph Richardson, Ian Holm, Peter Vaughan, David Warner, and Michael Palin.
What is it? I don't know. But it hurts.
We had made Life of Brian, Python's Life of Brian, and George Harrison and his manager, Dennis O'Brien, had basically come to the rescue. And with Python, we started a company called Handmade Films. And because of that, and because of my frustrations of not getting Brazil off the ground, I sat down one afternoon and said, well, let's take advantage of the situation. Let's write a film that would appeal to everybody, all the family. A film that would be exciting enough for adults and intelligent enough for children, is the way I was talking about it. And so one weekend I started writing, and I said, I wanted the film to be from a kid's point of view. I wanted the camera to be low. I wanted to see the world from a kid's point of view, but I was worried that a kid couldn't sustain it. So let's put a gang around him, but they've got to be his height. So we end up with a group of little people who become the Time Bandits. And then we set this adventure in a time when these people who were part of heaven, they're part of creation, they were God's helpers, but that wasn't good enough. They wanted money, like most people in the world. Again, low ambition. And so they set out to rob time and space. I love the idea that, the time and space were not perfect, that God had got distracted, he just was not perfect and made mistakes. So it's all about flawed creation and about greed and about things being seen from a child's point of view.
Michael Palin and I were sitting talking, where the carriage turns over and Michael and I are spilled out onto the ground in Sherwood Forest. Well, Terry was trying to show the small people how to jump off some scaffolding onto us, I mean around us, but not on us. So Terry, being a little overweight at the time, got up on the scaffolding and leapt into the air and landed smack dab on me. I guess that was the best chiropractic adjustment I ever had, working with Madman Terry.
I played Mrs. Ogre, and Mr. Ogre had an incredible makeup. Incredible. It took hours and hours and hours to make him look that ugly, Peter Vaughan. And he said afterwards, "Oh, well, are you prepared for that makeup?" And I said, "Yes, I am. I'm really willing to do anything for a part. But I would like to ask you something." And Terry said, "Okay, what?" And I said, "Don't you think it would be funnier if I looked like a nice, scrubbed, clean Connecticut housewife, madly in love, and had the hots for this wonderfully ugly ogre?" And Terry stopped, and then he turned to me and he said, "Yes, that's funnier."
You try being beastly and terrifying when you can only get 1 hour's sleep a night because your back hurts and you don't cough in case you're full of muscle.
But you are horrible, dear.
You're just saying that.
He is so open that if suddenly you say, "What about this?" or "Would this be funnier?" or "What about using this?" he really hears it, he really listens, he really thinks about it, and if it's funnier or better, he uses it.
He's not one of those directors that take you in a corner and where the critics afterwards say Terry Gilliam squoze the performance out of the actor. I think he's more subtle than that. Mainly, it was the physical aspect of the evil genius. I mean, the film was physical anyway, but with that extraordinary costume and the fingernails and stuff like that, creating all that for this particular actor to get into that ensemble and then be able to sort of take off. I mean, the script was there, written by these wonderful people who we all know, some of the Pythons and Terry. And so it was really in the script. And I think being used to working with the free rein in the television work, I think he allowed the actors to sort of really get out there and just have fun, which it was.
What sort of supreme being created such riffraff? Is it not the workings of a complete incompetent?
But he created you, evil one.
What did you say?
Well, he created you, so he can't be totally...
Never talk to me like that again. No one created me. I am evil. Evil existed long before good. I made myself. I cannot be unmade. I am all-powerful.
When I was filming Popeye, I got a call from Terry saying, "After you finish this movie, when do you finish this movie? After you finish this movie, why don't you come over to London and do 4 days for me, just 4 days?" And I said, "Wow, Terry, man, I'm tired. It's been 6 months working on this." And he said, "Oh, come on." He says, and devilish man that he is, he said, "Sean Connery's in it," because he knows that I like Sean Connery a lot. I mean, I love Sean Connery's work and always wanted to work with him. So he said, "Sean Connery's going to be in it." And I said, "You're kidding. Okay, I'll do it." And anyway, I got there, and of course I had no scenes whatsoever with Sean Connery. Bummer.
It was started as a joke, basically, because Mike and I wrote in the script that when the Greek warrior removed his helmet, this actually is what the script said, he said he takes his helmet off, revealing himself to be Sean Connery or an actor of equal but cheaper stature. We had no dream that we could ever get Sean Connery in the film, but he turned out to be a golfer and turned out to be playing golf with Dennis O'Brien, and then the idea came up. And it was actually at a point when Sean's career was, I think, at its nadir. It was pretty low at that point. And he said yes, he was interested. He's an interesting man because he's not the most trusting man. He doesn't suffer fools, and he wasn't sure who he was dealing with me. He said, I'm not going to let you see me get on the horse because I won't look good. So what I'll do, I'll just rise up in the stirrups and you can film me sitting down. That's all you get. You've got to work your way around that one kid. And it was like that. But it was fantastic because it got us through it.
Well, Kevin, here, it's yours. You don't want it?
Oh, yes, please. You mean I can really have it?
Well, on condition that you carry it back to the city for me.
Oh, great. But no, I can't really. I must wait. You see, I'm with friends. You see, if I lose them, I may never be able to get back.
Get back? To where?
I'm not really sure.
Here, you better take this. You'll need it. It's water. There's enough there for your friends, too, if they ever turn up.
In 1983, Gilliam co-wrote, along with the rest of the Pythons, and co-directs with Terry Jones, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, starring the entire Python gang. In his bio, he writes, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life released in the UK, invited to be included in the who's who of intellectuals. Unfortunately, can't complete the form.
Oh, Meaning of Life was I think, almost a tired attempt to try to keep the group together because we'd stopped doing television. And we still wanted to work together in some way, and so movies take up a lot less time than a television series, so we agreed to make a movie. And we all went off and wrote something called Monty Python's World War III. And then we rewrote it and it became Monty Python's Meaning of Life. And really, Meaning of Life ended up, it was an interesting time because the group wasn't really working as well as we'd worked together on Life of Brian. We'd all gone our separate ways, and our work habits were different. And so that film ended up being much more about sketches and a series of independently written things. And I think it's an uneven film, but I think the good bits are as good, if not better, than anything we've done.
What's all the trouble, then?
Bitten, sir, during the night.
Whole leg gone, eh?
Yes.
How's it feel?
Stings a bit.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? That's, quite a bite you've got there, huh?
Yes, a real beauty, isn't it?
Any idea how it happened?
None whatsoever. Complete mystery to me. Woke up just now. One sock too many.
You must have a hell of a hole in your net.
Well, we sent for the doctor.
Oh, hardly worth it, is
Oh,
it?
yes, better safe than sorry.
Yes, good Lord.
Well, of course, I had to go back and do the animation. That was my job in the group. And I didn't want to be an animator anymore. And I did the titles and I did a few other bits. But I was getting very frustrated having now directed a couple of my own films and enjoyed that freedom. And so I had an idea that had been originally an animation idea, which was about this group of old accountants who set off on the high seas of finance and become pirates. It was a cartoon idea, and out of my frustration of being trapped as an animator, I said, why don't you let me make this as a live action piece? And so basically, I made my own little film. I had my own set, my own crew, everything, and we made it this short film that was originally supposed to be about 2/3 of the way into the movie. And it didn't fit. It's called The Crimson Permanent Assurance. And it didn't fit in the middle of the film. And it was very interesting to realize that my rhythms had become different than the group's rhythms. And with the rhythms of the group and the expectations of laugh, 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 this thing didn't work that way. It worked on a different level, and we kept cutting it shorter and shorter. And it reached a point where I said, well, we can't cut it any shorter, and let's just take it out of the film. Let's just pull it out of the film. Oh, that's an interesting idea. So we pulled it out and put it on as a featurette before the film. So you have this short film, The Crimson Permanent Assurance, that goes on and it does what it does, and it works a treat. And then the film proper starts. But what it allowed us to do was to have 2/3 of the way through the film, the short subject attacking the feature film, which has not been done in many feature films. And so we got a double joke out of it, and I got to make my own little movie, and I got to escape from the nightmare of animation.
That's it, Evans. You're fired. You heard me. Out.
Did you hear that? He's been sacked.
Sacked? Sacked? Come on, boys. Let's get at 'em.
Together with Charles McKeon and Tom Stoppard, Gilliam wrote the screenplay for his 1985 release of Brazil, starring Jonathan Pryce, Robert De Niro, and Katherine Helmond, and produced by Arnon Milchan. Gilliam had long battles with Universal over the release of this film in America. Universal insisted on recutting the film and changing the ending to a happy one, which of course Gilliam resisted, although he did cut a 132-minute version for the American market. But after winning Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay awards at the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards without being released in the USA, Universal rushed to release Gilliam's version so that it could qualify for that year's Academy Awards. Brazil received 2 Academy Award nominations.
Time Bandits in America was the most successful film I've done because it made about $50 million then, which is probably over 100 now. And I've never matched that. So for a period there, I was hot. I had suddenly been elevated to a hot director. And there was a project that they were trying to get made, and they'd clearly gone through Spielberg and Lucas and all the other directors, and finally got down to my name. And there's a mentality at work here that this was the #1 project. And as they went down the list of directors, rather than going lower, they were elevating each director up to the director worthy of this hot project. So suddenly I became the hot director that was there to do this hot project. And when I turned it down, they were, "What? How could you?" I said, "Because there's something better called Brazil." And Brazil, which had been ignored by them all, rejected by them all, suddenly had been elevated now to being a hot property because the hot director had turned down the #1 hot property for another property. Complex but true. It was a strange experience because we were, I think, scheduled for a 20 or 21 week shoot. In the end, we shot for 9 months and came in under budget by $1 million.
I think one of the reasons people don't get Brazil is because of what I spoke about before, of the density of it. There is so much in it that it's impossible to see it one time through. His mind is so fertile, his imagination is so fertile, and his visualization is so rich that you just can't see it all. And you're looking, you're listening, you're trying to follow.
Sam, it's time for you to grow up and accept responsibility. Your poor father would be appalled at your lack of promotion.
Mother, I just wish you would stop interfering. I don't want promotion. I'm happy where I am.
No, you're not. Jack Lint is a lesson to you. He doesn't have your brains, but he's got the ambition. You haven't got the ambition. Luckily, you've got me and the deputy minister. Mr. Helpman was very close to your
Please,
father.
Mrs. Lowry, don't get upset. Mr. Lowry, please wait in reception. You're giving her wrinkles.
You see?
God. Just try and relax, Mrs. Lowry. I'll make you 20 years younger.
Oh, Dr. Jaffe, you are a genius.
When we started casting the film, Arnon was a good buddy of Robert De Niro's. He had just done Once Upon a Time in America. And Bob was, I think, a Python fan as well. And we met, and Arnon said, we got to get him in the movie. And I sent him a script saying, pick any part you want. And he chose the part that I'd already given to Mike Palin. No, it's gone, Bob. And it took me, I don't know, it seemed to take a month or two to convince him to play Harry Tuttle, the freelance engineer, the man who makes things work, the real hero of the film as far as I'm concerned. It was interesting because Bob thought it was too simplistic a character, and that's what I thought was wonderful, for him to play a hero. I said, you're a hero to us. It's simple. You just go in there and you do it. Even a small part, he's got to put everything into it. That's impressive.
Well, wouldn't it be simpler just to, work with... for me, please? Sorry, yes. I was saying, wouldn't it be simpler to work for Central Services?
Couldn't stand the pay.
Getting warm. You couldn't what? Couldn't stand the what?
Paperwork. Couldn't stand the paperwork. Listen,
This whole system of yours could be on fire, and I couldn't even turn on a kitchen tap without filling out a 27B/6. Bloody paperwork.
I suppose one has to expect a certain amount.
Why? I came into this game for the action, the excitement. Go anywhere, travel light, get in, get out, wherever there's trouble, a man alone. Now they got the whole country sectioned off. You can't make a move without a form.
If ever there was a film to test Gilliam's patience, it was the 1989 production of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, starring John Neville and Eric Idle. Gilliam wrote, "Filming of Munchausen commences at Cincetta Studios, Rome. Production self-destructs. Budget goes into orbit. Yet for all its problems, Munchausen turned out to be, as one critic wrote, another brilliantly inventive epic of fantasy and satire."
Everything about Munchausen is a lie. You got to understand that from the beginning. This is very important. There are so many lies told about Munchausen, which I hesitate to correct because they're always more interesting. I mean, I read that it's one of the most expensive films of all time. It's not true. It's I read that it cost 50 million, 46 million. Not true. But in a way, those lies have created a film that's bigger than it really was. What it was, though, was a nightmare. The dogs that we had developed a sickness. There was an outbreak of some kind of horse fever in Spain, so the horse that we had trained for several months to do the tricks couldn't be brought to Spain. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong in that film. So it was like reality. It was trying to prove to me that dreamers don't win, that a fantasy is a lie. This is reality. And the whole film was like that. Everything went wrong.
Make yourself useful. 1, 2, 3. Couldn't make that 4, could you? We're going down! Abandoned ship! Abandoned ship! I think the ship's abandoning us, mate.
It's the one experience that I find hardest to talk about because it was so painful. And what was so lovely about it was that I was going through this nightmare because I was the one person who knew we couldn't finish the film. This was my secret that I had to carry every day, knowing there was no way the film would ever be finished. And my assistant, who had never worked on a film before, saw this hulk of a creature every day. And every day was painful and screams. And then we'd see the rushes, and it was fantasy and joy and laughter. And she couldn't work out how this created that. It was like, I was like the peat moss, the mulch, this filthy, dark stuff that beautiful flowers grow out of.
Save us! Please! Save us! Don't disappoint me!
Please, man, please.
Oh, you are a battle, not you. You're our only hope. You are my only hope.
Ladies, please. I swear that as long as I, Hieronymus Karl Frederick Baron von Munchausen, live and breathe, you shall come to no harm. You so remind me of Catherine the Great, Empress of all the Russias, whose hand in marriage I once had the honor to decline.
They all remind you.
Yes, why not? Some bits here, some bits there.
Eventually, we got through the film, and it was an extraordinarily difficult experience. But what I like is when you look at the film, you don't see any of that. You don't see any of the pain, the blood, the awfulness. What you see is something that's beautiful and funny and sad and exhilarating.
In his bio, Gilliam wrote, "Puts head in mouth of Hollywood lion and directs first American studio film. The 1991 release of The Fisher King brings 5 Academy Award nominations and an Oscar for Mercedes Ruehl as Best Supporting Actress. The film starred Jeff Bridges, Robin Williams, Amanda Plummer, and Mercedes Ruehl. Critic Desson Howe of The Washington Post wrote, "Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King is an odd beast. In this case, that's something to treasure. A modern epic that fuses myth with hard-edged reality. It's a one-of-a-kind, thoroughly engaging experience."
He's an original. He's a man that listens to his imagination, is ruled by it. His imagination is steep and born out of a tremendous knowledge and experience with mythology. And the mythology is speaking about the mysterious in every one of us and in everything. And this is what he explores. And he doesn't, he's not interested in fixed notions.
After Munchausen, I was really knackered and fed up, and I didn't think I was ever going to make a movie again. I was just tired. And I didn't want to make big special effects films anymore. They were just too taxing. And the script arrived, and my agent sent it to me, said, it's some interesting writing, and I said, I don't want to read anybody else's script, but it's interesting, read it. And I opened it and started reading it, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just kept reading, because from the very first page, what wonderful dialogue, what really good characters. And it was like, I wish I'd written it. I just felt I could have written this, except I'm not that talented. And it was just characters I understood, I liked, and there it was, 4 people, no effects, nothing. Let's go and do it. Because I think at that point I'd reached the stage where I said I was going to make a film about a schizophrenic. I was going to make a really, really small film. It was going to be about a schizophrenic, but only half his personality. And this came along and it solved my problem.
The whole idea of the Fisher King was something that had figured heavily in my senior thesis, and I didn't know anybody else in the world even knew who the Fisher King was, because that's pretty rare stuff. So it almost had, when I saw this film, this script with the Fisher King written across it, it almost came with weight of fate, And we had this incredible conversation. And I think he gave me the job just to shut me up, finally. And when I went out the door, I was so elated from finding a mind so lambent and engaging and challenging. I was so, you literally get excited. The cells in your body are doing the merengue, everything. That I turned around and at the door and I said goodbye, and I turned around and I walked into a mirror. At the end of the hall, I walked into a mirror.
You know what the Holy Grail is?
Holy Grail? Yeah, I know that one. That was like Jesus' juice glass. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I used to be such a Catholic.
You still believe in God?
Yeah, you gotta believe in God. But I don't believe that God made men in his image. Because most of the shit that happens is because of men. Nah, I think man was made in the devil's image, and women were created out of God. Because after all, women can have babies, which is kind of like creating. And which also counts for the fact that women are so attracted to men. Because let's face it, the devil is a hell of a lot more interesting. I slept with some saints in my day, and believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Boring.
I think one of the reasons they offered the film to me was they wanted Robin to play Perry. And I think they'd sat down and gone through the list of directors he had worked with that he liked and discovered they were all working except for me. And so when the script arrived, one of my jobs was to convince Robin to do it. And that was the first thing I did. And I thought he'd be fantastic, and he was a friend, and great. And then I felt I really wanted an actor that would ground him, because I was frightened that Robin and me together would just fly off into madness and silliness. And I was looking for, basically I was looking for like a young Jack Nicholson, because the character had to be really fast-talking and snappy and cynical and sharp. And the last person I was thinking, of course, was Jeff Bridges, because Jeff was laconic, and he was and I was on a plane flying across the States, and Baker Boys was on. I saw him, I said, oh, he can do it, he'd be fantastic. And I couldn't wait to get off the plane to telephone and said, get in touch with Jeff.
Can you keep a secret?
No.
Good. Because you know what the little people told me?
Little people?
Oh, you know. They said, you're the one.
The one what?
Shut up! Get away from him! Oh, this will get... Winter, breathe. Oh, sorry about this. Very good. Oh, there we are. Yeah. They said you're not ready to know yet.
I'm not.
He is too. Get out of here. Fuck off. Oh, beat it. Oh, I'm right. Oh, yeah. Fly up there. Oh, yeah.
There's no place to be insecure on his set. Anything can happen and is welcomed to happen. I think it's the closest to heaven that I would imagine that an actor would imagine heaven would be a set like that.
On the set, the four of us had a feeling of genuine camaraderie, and Robin, of course, is wonderful to work with because he's 95% of the time, when two or more are gathered in his presence, that guy is on. I mean, he's channeling the humor of the universe all the time, as if it's like coursing through him, you know, involuntarily. Jeff is very intense, very internal. Amanda is a total original as a human being. She has an original kind of energy, an original kind of intensity. I've never met anybody like her before in my life. But somehow we made a harmonious group. And I think it had something to do with Terry, the tone he set, the great desire we all had to please him, and the material that he chose, the way he gets excited and enthused about material.
Anybody special in your life?
Does it look like there's anybody special in my life?
You don't have to say it like that. It's not so, crazy an idea. You're a healthy woman. You have a steady job. You're not cross-eyed or anything.
No, there is nobody special. Okay, fine. I mean, it's not easy in this day and age.
What's not easy?
Meeting people.
Oh, God, tell me about it. I've been dating longer than I've been driving. I can't believe that.
I have never been through a dating period.
It's a disgusting process. You haven't missed a thing.
It was an interesting thing making, or an interesting exercise making Fisher King, because I was trying not to make a Terry Gilliam film. I was trying to make that script. I was trying to just serve the script. And I was always very nervous about putting too many of my fantastical ideas on the script. And there was a scene in Grand Central Station that Richard had written with sort of a poor black woman singing, and people would stop by and give her money, and little by little the crowd grew, and there was kind of a beautiful moment. But it was basically a realistic, naturalistic moment in the film. And I was at Grand Central looking at it, trying to get a sense of the rhythms of the place, and I was watching all these commuters rushing back and forth, and as rush hour developed, they get faster and faster, and it's like a swarm, building, and I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if this thing builds, and it's like, whoop, it breaks out into a waltz, and they all suddenly, rather than rushing past the next person, they suddenly fall in love, and they start dancing. And I said, it's a silly idea, and the producers, everybody says, no, you got to use it. I said, no, that would be a Terry Gilliam film. I'm not going to use this in this film. This is Richard's film. And everybody kept pestering me, and I said, okay, finally, we agreed to do it. And then we got into Grand Central Station. We basically had one night to pull that thing off.
Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, and Brad Pitt star in Gilliam's 1995 release of 12 Monkeys, which opened to worldwide audience acceptance and received 2 Academy Award nominations. When asked by an interviewer what 12 Monkeys was about, Gilliam replied, "That's the trouble. I don't know. I know all the bits and pieces are all good in themselves. It's how they all string together that counts."
Once you commit to a project, you think, oh, it's going to happen. Of course, it doesn't quite happen that way. And the original actors we were talking about, the studio wasn't happy with us, and I kept walking away from this project, and because they kept offering up big names, and they were all the wrong names. And I said, no, I don't want to know about it. And then one day I got a call from my agent saying Bruce Willis was interested. Now, I'd met Bruce on Fisher King because he was interested in playing the part that Jeff ultimately played. And we'd spent an afternoon together, and I really liked him. And he was a very different guy than I expected, much smarter and much more interesting. And when his name came up on this one, I thought, that's great, that's a good idea. And I went to New York and we met, and we talked about it, and I said, you know, this is a serious acting job, and I didn't want, and nor did Bruce want to bring the Bruce Willis baggage along. I think it's the best performance he's ever done. I'm actually very sad that he wasn't nominated for something, because I think it's a really fine performance, and the more I watch the film, the more I appreciate it. It's a really intelligent, sensitive performance.
I need to go. We're supposed to be gathering information.
What kind of information?
Won't help you. Won't help anyone. Won't change anything.
James, do you know why you're here?
Because I'm a good observer. And a tough mind.
I see. You don't remember assaulting a police officer for several hours.
Why are they chained? Why are they chains on me?
You've been in an institution before, haven't you? A hospital.
Now, need to go. Need to go.
In prison, James?
Underground.
Hiding?
This air. Such wonderful air.
Terry was talking about doing A Tale of Two Cities for a long time, and we had initially met several months before all this came up for 12 Monkeys, and they obviously never made the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we were casting for Dr. Rayleigh's part, and we started going down a list of names of actresses, and we came to Madeline Stowe, and I said, that's it, done.
I felt that there was a really overpowering sense of nostalgia about the film. And I didn't mean nostalgia in the sense that, you know, people long for the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, but more for things that we feel happen in our lives that maybe were more ambiguous than we knew about and didn't necessarily happen, but was such an overwhelming feeling that you felt you were in another time and place while you were living in this time and place. And he somehow sort of connected to that.
She's the anchor for the film. She's the audience. And in many ways, she was the anchor for me when we were shooting. She was the one person that I could always rely on, because Bruce and Brad were out there on the edge, dangerous, sometimes making it, sometimes not. But they were out there, and she was the center, and she kind of anchored me through the course of the film. She was one person I could always talk to about whatever was going right or wrong.
He not only used the word prank, he said the boy was hiding in a barn.
Catherine, he kidnapped you. You saw him murder somebody, and you knew there was a real possibility that he could kill you, too. You're under tremendous emotional stress.
Oh, for God's sake, Owen, listen to me. He knew about the boy in Fresno, and he says 5 billion people are going to die.
No way he could possibly know that. Catherine, you're a rational person. You're a trained psychiatrist. You know the difference between what's real and what's not.
And what we say is the truth is what everybody accepts, right, Owen? I mean, psychiatry, it's the latest religion. We decide what's right and wrong. We decide who's crazy or not. I'm in trouble here. I'm losing my faith.
Well, first of all, I have a real soft spot for Terry, because I went to him, you know, I'd read this, and I went to him to get the role. He took a big chance with me, because this is, you know, this is not what you would see me being able to pull off. He really took a chance with me.
He was supposed to be sending me tapes of his progress, which he determinedly refused to do, and I was getting very nervous as we were approaching shooting days. Oh, it's not going to work. It's going to be a disaster. He's conned me. I've made a major mistake here.
You take a role, you want to find something there's a lot to, I guess the cliche is chew on, and you definitely want to try something you haven't done before. And yeah, a lot going on with this little guy. We kind of drew from different symptoms, you know, symptoms that doctors label people as, and we drew from different things in that way.
And then on the first day of shooting, it's the first, his intro into the film is exactly the first day of shooting. And he just got on the set and he exploded. And he's just like, whoa, Jesus, this is fantastic. And we just shot. And by the end of the day, he was like a wet dish rag. He just drained. He could barely stand up. I mean, just those ticks and twitches and leaps and things were just, just extraordinary what he was doing. And it was wonderful. It was so funny.
Hey, all of these nuts could just make phone calls. They could spread insanity oozing through telephone cables, oozing to the ears of all these poor, sane people, infecting them. Wackos everywhere, plague of madness.
Come on, let's go.
In fact, very beautiful. Very few of us here are actually mentally ill. I'm not saying you're not mentally ill. For all I know, you're crazy as a loon. But that's not why you're here. That's not why you're here. It's not why you're here. You're here because of the system.
Yeah, strangely, my life has been an interesting pattern. I've learned patience is what I've learned, because what I wanted to be was what I am now, but I wanted to be it when I was like 21. It just took a long time to get here. But I don't really have many complaints, because I've been able basically to do what I've wanted to do all the time. And that's been basic to me, that every film I've done, I've wanted to do, and I've had control of it. So the mistakes are my mistakes. They're not anybody else's. I've not had to compromise. And I could have made more films, but then I wouldn't have had as much time to work on my house in Italy. So what do you do?
In 1998, Gilliam released Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, an adaptation of the Hunter S. Thompson novel. The off-the-wall film featured an all-star cast that included Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, Tobey Maguire, Ellen Barkin, Gary Busey, Christina Ricci, Mark Harmon, Cameron Diaz, Katherine Helmond, and Michael Jeter. Unfortunately, the film failed to find much of an audience who could understand or follow the frantic and sometimes weird situations fabricated from Hunter S. Thompson's book.
Suddenly, there was a terrible roar all around us, and the sky was full of what looked like huge bats, all swooping and screeching and diving around the car. And a voice was screaming, "Holy Jesus, what are these goddamn animals?"
I don't know what to say about how Terry directs, because there's no method to the madness. I mean, it's just like being at home. He makes everybody very comfortable. Terry's personality is unique. There is no other like him. You know, it's a well-known fact that he's a madman. It's a lesser-known fact that he's an American. What color are his eyes? I forgot. I think they're blue. No, they're brown. Brown.
Not question 65. Oh, no, not that one. Ah! Whoa, how does history remember me? I don't know. The one thing I do know about what I want history to think is I know what I want on my gravestone. I was in Texas promoting Munchausen. I was on a radio talk show, and some guy called in, and he said he saw Baron Munchausen, and he giggled in awe. And that's what I want on my tombstone. Terry Gilliam, R.I.P. He giggled in awe. And that's about it. The films will be what they are, and they'll be around for a while. They'll be around long after I am. And I hope the films actually continue, no matter how old they become, to surprise people and make them look at the world through different eyes. I think that's all I care about.